So, hi Randy. I'm just so pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you because it was a few weeks ago we were talking about Michael Oliver and natural selling, and it was such a helpful conversation. We've decided to get together and share that in a recording so that other people can benefit from that. So, you've been in Nikken quite some time now and had a lot of success, but you were talking and sharing about how you've reconnected with Michael Oliver recently and what an impact that's made. So Michael Oliver, he has a website, Natural Selling, which is www.naturalselling.com. And we invited him over to he was over in the UK anyway, so some of the people here have been on a coaching day with him. But as ever, these things go to the back of your mind and we plough on in our usual way. So it was just very timely to get that refresher from you. But and it's lovely to collaborate together because you're over in Philadelphia, I think, in America.
Right, yes.
And, we're both together with Julie Tara as our sponsor and mentor in Nikken. But it's great to help each other along. But so do you want to just introduce, say a bit about what Nikken is for you and how you see it and what's great?
Sure, yes. Thank you for this opportunity, Louise. I love working together, collaborative entrepreneurs in Nikken. I started Nikken 19 years ago, this month actually, August 97. And it was a perfect fit for me. I had, in the 70s and 80s, I was a practicing lawyer. And I left law because it didn't give me the lifestyle I wanted to focus on my family and my children. So we bought an old farmhouse and rebuilt it. And that's where our kids were born, up in the mountains in this old farmhouse. We ran out of money, came back to Philadelphia. I took a couple of jobs for a while, and then I started writing so I could stay home with the kids. And that led to a family counseling practice. People came with my book under arm saying they wanted to talk to me. So while the kids were growing up, I was doing family counseling and nutrition education because in 1980 I became a certified nutritionist just because I'd educated myself for the well-being of my family. But I found I had a skill in sharing complex concepts with other people. So when my kids were grown, I was looking for something. I'd actually put it out to the universe. I need a way to keep my freedom, to focus on my family, but to be able to teach the natural health that I learned about and the relationship health and make a whole lot of money. So that was a big demand I put out. And a month later, a friend called and said that he'd heard that I had put this out there, and did I know about Nikken? And I said, well, no, but I pretty much know everything that's out there, and I've looked at network marketing companies, and they're all kind of Me Too nutritionals, and what is it? What is it? And he wouldn't tell me. He said, I'll send you a tape. Back those days, so it was a cassette tape. And he called me back 3 times. And I said, I forgot to put it in the car, sorry, And then he said, let me come over for a half hour. And I said, 30 minutes, that's all I got. And in 5 minutes, I knew it was what I had prayed for because I already knew the dangers of the electromagnetic pollution that we were exposed to. I'd heard about it when we were living up in the mountains because we helped farmers and Indians up there fight an ultra high voltage transmission line that was going across their property. And so I'd heard the testimonies from Robert Becker and people that are like the gods of this kind of knowledge now. He was a young man then, giving the testimony about what the effects of electromagnetic pollution were. So when I heard that there was a network marketing company based on restoring us to the natural energy field, I'm like, I can do this in my sleep. This is so cool. And I took some sleep systems and loaned them out. And one night on the sleep system, people were saying, how do I get a hold of one of these? So I signed up, sold them, and moved very quickly. First year, I had a big warm market. And things kind of slowed down when I was going into cold market, because I didn't have that kind of credibility with total strangers. You know, I just looked like somebody's wife with a network marketing company, big deal, you know. So I diddled along, doing well. I love Nikken and use every product they ever made. And I was really looking for a way to be more comfortable talking to strangers about Nikken. And it was so easy for people to just say, oh, well, that's very interesting. Or I've heard of magnets. I don't know if they work. And, you know, it's just sort of like, you know, a lot of rejection. And traditional network marketing, they say, oh, you just got to get used to the rejection. You got to get a thick skin. You got to know that's the way the game works. You know, talk to 100 people, 3 people will listen, blah, blah, blah. And then I remembered that I had heard about Michael Oliver's work a couple of years ago. I looked it up. It was 2013. And it made a lot of sense. And I kind of tried to do it. But then, like you said, kind of fell away from it. And then I remembered, okay, I got to do this again. And so I read his book. I read it every day now. And I also have a set of his early recordings of one of his webinars, 6 CD set that I keep in my car. And I thought, this makes so much sense. And I felt like I'd gotten to a point where I really did need to have a change. And when I realized that I needed to apply what he said wholeheartedly and really follow his dialogues and his suggestions, and of course make them my own, but it's really so much about the tone and timing of what he recommends.
Yes, so I think just for people who are not familiar with what his approach is, it's called natural selling. And I just wrote down his blurb, how to make objections, rejection and fear of selling a thing of the past. And in Nikken, because we have such phenomenal products and business opportunity, we do have a tendency to throw that solution at people. And his whole approach, and then that creates rejection, a resistance rather, not necessarily rejection, but it makes our job more difficult. So in opening up these questions that he recommends and listening, what he calls Socratic questions, we can allow the people to come to that solution for themselves. But I'd love it if you could share a bit about how that has helped you overcome that resistance to opening conversations or even following them through, because I think it has made all the difference for you, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You know, people say that playing the game is fun and going through the numbers, and he says, don't bother with the numbers. And now it really is fun because you're basically building relationships. You're showing people that you care. And what he says is so true, that if you start using these conversations, not even with an agenda in mind, just sharing Nikken, but just talking with people, you'll find you get a really different response. So it becomes more and more safe, really, and you can be your authentic self, because you're not kind of looking for that opportunity. Okay, they said their knee hurts, I've got the solution. Instead, you say, well, what difference does that make to you? How would you feel if you could get that feeling better? How long has it been going on? What have you done so far to try to improve it? And so you guide them to thinking through their history, so that then they realize, well, gee, you know, if there were a solution, it would make a big difference in my life. And even then you say, well, you know, from all that you've said, and then you review everything they've said, you say, I might have a solution. Would you be interested in hearing about it? And then your presentation is totally geared to what they wanted. Not just fixing their knee, but they want to be mobile. They want to chase their grandson around the yard, or they want to play tennis, or you talk about what it is behind. Because people, you know, they get used to their knee not working.
Oh dear, we've frozen. Oh dear.
Really working. then the whole thing changes. And there's never a rejection because they know you care. And they've said, yeah, it really would make a difference if I had a solution. So once they've said that, how can they say, well, no, I don't want to hear your solution. So you're building a relationship. You're building rapport where they understand that you really care. And by listening, I mean, it's historically true that the best conversationalists in the world are the ones that get all the credit, are the ones that ask questions. It's not that their brain is exploding, it's that they are interested in the person. So that's, I'm an academic, being a lawyer and a nutritionist and a writer, and, like Michael Oliver says, everybody has answers. It's having the good questions that help people. And that's the whole Socratic method. They use it in law school in a very aggressive manner. But in this way, it's to bring the person out, to get them back in touch with their feeling world. And a lot of people have just shunted that away because they figure, well, I'm too busy, I'm too stressed, I'm too tired. I just not going to find a solution. And then you're exploring with them what they've done so far, maybe why it hasn't worked, maybe they could look at it a different way. What would it mean to them if it changed? So he has a wonderful schematic for that series of questions. And when you get to your presentation, it's almost a done deal. And for me, talking to people, the fun of it is that I don't get rejection or objections because they've dealt with what they want. So my job is to find out if there's a need that I can help with. It's not like, hey, here's Niken, do you want it or not? And that was a hard shift for me because I know, as a matter of physics, everybody needs these products. And for me, in 5 minutes, I knew this is going to enhance my life, my family's life, my husband's life. And it did tremendously. And we thought we were as healthy as we could get. But then we got better. Kids were sleeping better. My husband got rid of his stuffy nose. And I had more energy through the day. So I know everybody needs these, but not everybody knows they need them. So it's really our job to ask enough questions that they discover that they have a problem they need to solve.
So how do you do your sort of opener conversation in a sort of Michael Oliver manner?
Yeah, that's really, really helpful, especially with strangers, because you can say, well, I sell wellness products, or I have an online retail business, or I help people set up home-based businesses. And they're like, oh, ho-hum, that sounds interesting, and then here's my card, and they walk away. But Michael Oliver recommends, and it makes a huge difference when they say, well, what do you do? What kind of work do you do? You relate to something that they can relate to. So you start out, and it's very, very succinct. It's, well, how, and then you say, how people are feeling job insecurity or being downsized or really having trouble making ends meet. Well, I help people set up a home-based business in wellness that can help them get back control over their financial life. Or if you're leading with the products, you say, well, how so many people are struggling with chronic conditions like headaches or sore back or poor sleep that the medical world really doesn't have good solutions for. Well, I help those people use non-medical solutions to improve their lives in those areas. And the first time I said that at a networking lunch, I had 3 people come up after me and give me their cards and say, well, I have someone that has depression in my family, or I want to meet with you. That never happened to me before. So it's really about making it clear how you help people. And he gives a great example of a IT engineer who says, well, I'm an IT engineer. And he's like, great. So he taught him to say, well, how people struggle with their software at their businesses? Well, I help them solve those problems. And they're like, oh, is that what you do? Cool. So it seems like such a simple shift. And as an academic, I'm taught to just answer the question, what do you do? well, I'm a lawyer who became a wellness consultant. Well, no, that doesn't get you there. You have to kind of say something that has some rapport, like, you know, start where they are. You know how people have chronic disease these days. Well, I help them overcome that naturally with non-medical solutions. And then at the end of that, you ask a question. Either do you relate to that? Do you know somebody who might be interested? Or you just ask, you know, what do you do? And then you start the series of questions like, what do you like about that? And if they say, oh, I love my job, it's not the end. You know, a lot of us think that's the end. It could be the beginning. Then you say, what do you like about it? Well, I like how much money I make, or I like the people. And then you say, is there something you would change about it? Oh yeah, I hate the commute. I hate all the politics. So you find out what they like and what they don't like. And when you do eventually give your presentation, you can say, well, you know, you can have the biggest income you want with wonderful people, but it's your time. Nobody tells you what to do, and so on. So you can focus on what they like and dislike rather than what you think are the pluses and minuses, because they might not be for somebody.
And this is kind of where then you don't get the rejection, because you just have a conversation that leads to their interest or not, but you haven't had any awkwardness. So then that builds our confidence and enjoyment, actually, of reaching out. So I guess that's another plus working in this way.
Yes, I've had also he predicts, and it's true, I've had people thank me for the conversation. They enjoyed it. Somebody actually listened to them. And when you repeat back exactly what they've said to you, and then ask another question, they know you've heard them. And in today's fast-paced world, people aren't getting heard. People are thinking what they're going to say next rather than how can I meaningfully explore what you're saying. So it's a very different kind of conversation, but he calls it much more natural, and it is more natural. When I do parenting advice in my books, it's all about listen to the child. The child knows the answers. They just want to be heard. But if you say, oh, that shouldn't bother you, do this, do that, the children will walk away and say, I'm not going to ask her again. But if you listen to them and say, okay, so why don't you like math? Well, I hate my teacher because she hates me. Well, what have you done about that so far? And explore it until they say, well, I think she likes Johnny better than me. Oh, well, you know, have you talked to Johnny? Have you talked to the teacher? You know, you just offer solutions. And that's the other thing that I found so powerful. Even when it's time to do your presentation, you keep the focus totally on them. It's what I call conditional. It's conditioned on their agreement, their decision. And so you say, I might have something that will make a difference for you. It's not like, well, I know what'll fix it. If we don't come in as a white knight, we just come in as a caring friend. That makes sense?
Totally. So I think going onto Michael's website is a good start. And then he's got his book, hasn't he, Natural Selling, which is flagged up on the book, and that's in an audio version that you can download straight off his website. And that's it, really, because then I think he's got an upgrade now where you can engage in more personal coaching with him, which costs a bunch. But, you know, whatever people want, really. But I think for it's sufficient entirely to read the book and practice from that book, would you say?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's new, the dialogues, but when you try them, just try them with the cashier in the grocery store, you know, start somewhere that's not scary, and you'll see you get different kinds of responses, and then it grows on you and can become a habit. And I've read the book over and over again because getting used to the tone, the conditional aspect, the discovery process, how to ask questions, how to recognize when the next question is, you know, what have you tried? Or did it work for you? that kind of question. And then what if you don't solve this problem? And you just explore the whole thing. And then by the end of that, they think that you really know what you're talking about, and they want to hear it. And by then, you actually know what will appeal to them most and how to talk about it so that they will see it could be a solution. So, Michael Oliver's book is called How to Sell Network Marketing Without Fear, Anxiety, and Losing Your Friends. Actually came out in 2002, but it still works great. And I've actually changed the way I do emails as well. I often say, well, from what you've told me, I think you might be interested in looking at this video. So it's always about them rather than the traditional thing is, well, if I can show you how to solve that problem, would you be interested? But that immediately puts the pressure back on us that somehow we have to show them that this will solve their problem. But if what he says, don't say, if I can show you, you say, if you could solve that problem, what would it mean to you? And pursue that instead of, just don't get that I in there. It's not about our agenda. It's about us finding out if they have a need that we can help them fill.
Yeah. The other thing is with follow-up, if you've left somebody behind, maybe the summer holidays, you got distracted and it's like 2 months ago, you can reference back. If you connect up with them again, you reference back to what they said when you spoke. Like, yes. When we spoke last, you said that you were really interested in looking at the sleep system, say. Well, can we arrange a meeting to talk about that further? So you're referencing back to what they said. Or when we last spoke, you were really excited about the business and getting behind that. Because since we spoke, I shifted how I spoke to people. And it makes me want to do it. There isn't that resistance. It's just easy because I'm just going to connect with them and remind them of what they told me.
Yeah, you're just getting rid of our own resistance to picking up the phone. Yeah, it's he has good advice about that too, of just saying, you crossed my mind. Well, they did. Maybe you have a list in front of you, but they crossed your mind. And I was thinking about what you said about, your dad's facing shoulder surgery, and maybe there's something that we could do to make that easier on him. So just like you said, referencing back and say, I just thought of you. We haven't talked in a year, but I remember you said that you were really busy, but maybe someday you'd like to check out our natural products.
And then just to conclude, how do you feel? Because a lot of people will say they don't like selling. They don't see themselves as being strong in that area. So how does this help that whole approach, do you think?
Yeah, I have a funny story there. I used to get responses they'd say, well, you're a good salesperson. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing very well here. But the focus was on me, that I knew so much. And they're like, oh, you're a good salesperson because you're telling how wonderful the products are. But it was about me instead of about them. So when people say they don't like to sell, it's because, there's 10 times as many people trying to sell you as there were 20 years ago. And people just can't imagine doing that kind of aggressive, grabbing people by the collar and saying, you need this stuff. But this is completely different. It's like sharing a good movie with a friend, or recommending your favorite hair salon, or a new restaurant that you've just tried. It's really about, oh, I know you like Italian food. There's this new place down the road. You don't say there's this new place down the road and you better like Italian food. You relate it to the person. You're not going to, somebody who loves war movies, you're not going to tell them to watch some, romantic comedy. And so you want to know, you
Mhm.
want to know them well enough so that you can explore with them if we can help them. So it's more an exploration. It's a natural conversation rather than selling. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally. So we've got an exciting months ahead, haven't we, in
Oh
Nicken?
my goodness. Yes.
Lots more coming in.
I've got some big goals for the next 4 months.
Yes, I think we all do. So it's exciting. And I think that's why I thought it'd be great to have a call to share that out with people who want to add that into how they get out there, really. So
Yeah, and we were taught, initially in network marketing, you tell them your story, you find out their story, and then you build a story together. But they don't want to know your story; they want to tell their story, and you never even have to tell your story when you're really exploring theirs with them.
yeah,
And that's really beautiful. So, eventually they'll get to know your story if they join you, and they'll get curious. But
yeah,
until you're exploring theirs, they don't care what you've experienced.
yeah, exactly. That's what I find, and it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. If you really want to share your story, just talk to one of your colleagues already in Niken.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you think we haven't covered to help people along with it? Do you think?
Well, I'll say again that it really makes a difference to experiment with Michael Oliver's language of starting with, how people are suffering, and staying in the feeling area, not just the facts, focus on the feelings. So that takes questions, especially with someone you don't know well. So it's not just the facts of form, family, occupation, motivation, finances, whatever. It's about asking questions till they get to that feeling area. And when I was a counselor, people got there pretty quick because they were coming to me for solutions. But I was never a seller or a marketer. It was all by referral as a lawyer, as a family counselor. And here, reaching out, it's really about exploring what makes people tick, what are they looking for feeling wise, not just, oh, I want more money. Oh, I know how you can make it. It's, what would that mean to you just to have another 1,000 a month or another 5,000 a month? What would that mean? Well, I could take my kids to Europe. Oh, wow. Why do you want to do that? You still ask questions. Oh, well, I love being with my kids and I really want them to see Europe. And how would that make you feel if you were able to do that? So there's actually 4 questions behind that one question. So it's a beautiful exploration. So I encourage everybody to give it a go.
Definitely, we will. So we're coming to the close of our day in England, but you're kind of at the beginning of yours, aren't you? So
Yes.
I'll let you go and do your day.
Yeah, we have a holiday weekend, long weekend this weekend with Labor Day, Monday.
Okay.
Celebrating labor, and Niken allows us to free ourselves from the workaday. So it's a good thing.
Well, have a wonderful time. Thanks so much, Randy.
Oh, thank you, Louise. And I hope we can really spread the word, because it's great to be really having fun meeting people and helping.
Absolutely.